Be me. Nancy, 32 years old, project manager at a mid-sized tech company. By all the metrics I used to measure my life, I was successful. I had a great career, climbing the ladder faster than most of my peers, owned my own condo in a decent part of the city, financially independent, sharp, and, according to my friends, a force to be reckoned with. But there was a gaping hole in my life that no promotion or well-managed project could fill. I was profoundly, deeply alone. It wasn't for a lack of trying. I was on all the apps. I'd let my friends set me up. Every single attempt at dating for the past 5 years had ended in the exact same way, a spectacular crash and burn. It always started well enough. A match, some witty banter over text. He'd seem normal, interesting even. Then we'd meet for a drink, and the real me would come out. I remember one date in particular, a few months before everything changed. His name was Mark, worked in finance, seemed nice enough. We're sitting in a bar, and he's telling me about a challenging deal he just closed. He's proud of it. I can see the genuine excitement in his eyes. Instead of congratulating him, my brain just kicks into autopilot. I started explaining how the aggressive, competitive nature of the financial sector is a direct byproduct of toxic masculinity. I told him that his win was likely built on the exploitation of a system designed by men for men. The light in his eyes just went out. It was like watching a candle get snuffed. He tried to change the subject, asking what I did for fun. I told him my main hobby was activism, specifically deconstructing patriarchal power structures online. He just nodded slowly, took a long sip of his beer, and said he needed to use the restroom. He never came back. Left me with the bill. That was my life. A repeating loop of me turning potential connections into ideological lectures. My social media was a reflection of my real-life persona. It was a curated wall of infographics about the wage gap, retweets of articles about benevolent sexism, and long, angry threads calling out problematic behavior in movies and TV shows. My friends, all of whom shared my worldview, would cheer me on. "You go, girl. Speak truth to power." But their encouragement felt hollow when I was sitting alone in my perfectly decorated condo on a Friday night, scrolling through pictures of their happy family vacations. I had built a fortress of righteousness around myself, and I was its only prisoner. My work life was no different. I was efficient and good at my job, but I viewed my male colleagues through a lens of deep suspicion. If a man repeated my idea in a meeting, he was repeating and stealing my credit. If he tried to explain a technical concept to me, he was mansplaining. If he held the door open for me, he was performing an act of benevolent sexism, subtly implying I was weak. I was constantly on guard, cataloging microaggressions, ready for a fight that only I was participating in. The men in my office mostly just gave me a wide berth. They were polite but distant. They collaborated with me when necessary, but there was no warmth, no camaraderie. I told myself it was because they were intimidated by a strong woman. The truth, I think, is that they were just tired. The breaking point came on a random Tuesday. I was on the phone with my old friend, Edward. He's a psychologist, a calm, rational guy I'd known since we were kids. I was in the middle of a full-blown rant, pacing my living room with a glass of wine. The subject was the utter hopelessness of modern dating and how men were emotionally stunted creatures incapable of genuine partnership. I went on for a solid 10 minutes, laying out my thesis with the passion of a prosecuting attorney. When I finally ran out of steam, there was a long pause on the other end of the line. Edward didn't argue. He just asked, "Nancy, are you happy?" The question hit me like a punch to the gut. I stopped pacing. "Of course I'm not happy, Edward. That's what I've been telling you." He was quiet for another moment. "You have a very specific strategy for interacting with half the human population," he said gently. "It's based on critique, suspicion, and the assumption of negative intent. You've been running this strategy for years. How's it working out for you?" I started to get defensive, launching into another speech about systemic issues. He cut me off, which he never did. "I'm not talking about systems, Nancy. I'm talking about you in your day-to-day life, with the man who makes your coffee, the man who sits in the cubicle next to you, the man who asks you out for a drink." I didn't know what to say. "I want to propose an experiment," he said, "just for 30 days, a behavioral experiment." "What kind of experiment?" I asked, my voice dripping with suspicion. "For the next 30 days, you are forbidden from criticizing men. No lectures, no call-outs, no correcting, no eye-rolling, not out loud and not in your head." I laughed. "That's impossible. That's my entire personality." "I know," he said. "That's the first part. Here's the second. For every man, you have a meaningful interaction with each day, a colleague, a barista, a guy on a date. You have to find one genuine, honest thing to praise or compliment them on." I was speechless. The suggestion was so offensive, so counter to everything I believed, that I couldn't form a coherent response. Praise them? For what? For upholding the patriarchy? "It's insane, Edward. It's like asking me to thank a burglar for only stealing my TV." "Is the barista a burglar, Nancy?" "Is Kenneth from your programming team a burglar?" he countered. "You're seeing a monolith, an enemy army. I'm asking you to see individuals. For 30 days. What do you have to lose? Your current method has already led you to where you are now, successful, righteous, and utterly miserable." His words hung in the air. Miserable. He was right. I hated him for being right. I argued with him for another 20 minutes, but my heart wasn't in it. His logic was a pinprick in the giant balloon of my ideology. "Fine," I finally snapped. 30 days. But this is the stupidest idea I've ever heard. "Great," he said, completely unfazed. "Day 1 starts tomorrow. Call me in a month." I hung up the phone, feeling a toxic mix of anger and dread. This was going to be the longest month of my life. The first day of the experiment felt like walking through a minefield. My morning routine involved a stop at a little coffee shop near my office. The barista was a young guy, always looked tired, kind of scruffy. We had a purely transactional relationship. I'd state my overly complicated order, he'd grunt, I'd tap my card, he'd shove the cup at me. This morning, as he handed me my latte, I took a deep breath. My mind was racing, trying to find something to say that wasn't a lie. His latte art was non-existent. He wasn't particularly friendly, but he was fast. "Hey," I said, my voice feeling foreign in my own mouth. "I just wanted to say, you make coffee faster than anyone I've ever seen. It's really impressive how efficient you are in the morning rush." He stopped what he was doing and looked at me. Not at my chest, not over my shoulder, but right at me. He blinked a couple of times, as if he didn't understand the words. A slow smile spread across his face. "Oh, thanks." I try. The next morning, when I came in, he smiled at me. "The usual?" he asked. And when he handed me the cup, there was a wobbly, malformed heart drawn in the foam. It felt weird, unsettlingly nice. Later that first week, I was leaving the office. The security guard at the front desk, an older man named George, who I'd never spoken to, beyond a curt nod, wished me a good evening. Normally, I'd just ignore him or grunt back. The experiment. Right. I stopped. "You know, George, I really appreciate that you're always here. It feels safer knowing you're always so alert and present at the desk." He looked as shocked as the barista had. He straightened his tie and stood up a little taller. "Just doing my job, Ms. Nancy." "But thank you. That means a lot." From that day on, George always greeted me with a huge smile and a "Have a wonderful day, Ms. Nancy." The real test came at the office. There's a guy in our marketing department, David. Nice enough, but very much a corporate peacock. Always in a perfectly tailored suit or blazer. I'd always internally mocked him for it. Classic male vanity. He walked past my desk on the way to a meeting, and I saw my chance. It felt like jumping into cold water. "David," I called out. He stopped. "That's a really sharp blazer. The color is great on you." He literally froze for a second. He looked down at his jacket, then back at me. A look of genuine confusion on his face. He probably thought it was the prelude to some sarcastic feminist critique. "Oh, thank you, Nancy. I appreciate that." He walked away, but there was a different energy about him, a little bounce in his step. An hour later, he walked by my desk again and placed a cup of coffee on it without a word. Just set it down, gave me a small nod, and kept walking. I stared at the coffee for a full 5 minutes. What was happening? This wasn't in any of my textbooks or theory blogs. This was simple cause and effect. A small positive action resulted in a small positive reaction. It was so basic, it felt revolutionary. The second week, I decided to get bolder. Kenneth is one of our senior back-end developers. He's a legitimate genius, but he's also painfully shy and socially awkward. He rarely speaks in meetings, and when he does, he mumbles and stares at his shoes. I'd always found him frustrating to work with. I had to drag information out of him. I'd labeled him as just another guy with poor communication skills who expected women to do all the emotional labor of managing a conversation. We were in a project review meeting, and we'd hit a major roadblock. A database issue was threatening to delay a major launch by weeks. Everyone was throwing out complicated, expensive solutions. Then, Kenneth cleared his throat. In a barely audible voice, he mumbled a few sentences about re-indexing a specific set of tables and creating a temporary cache. The room was silent. Our tech lead's eyes went wide. It was a brilliant, elegant solution that would save us weeks of work and thousands of dollars. The old me would have just nodded and moved on, happy the problem was solved. But the experiment was in my head. I spoke up. "Kenneth, that's not just a good idea. It's an incredible idea. The way you approach that problem from a completely different angle is seriously brilliant. I would have never thought of that." I made sure to say it clearly, looking directly at him. The entire room turned to look at him. A deep beet-red blush crept up his neck and consumed his entire face. He looked down at the table, but I could see a small, hesitant smile on his lips. For the rest of the meeting, he sat up straighter. Later that afternoon, I got an instant message from him. "Hey, thanks for what you said in the meeting." I replied, "You earned it. It was a great idea." There was a pause. Then, "I was looking at the project plan for your upcoming feature launch. I noticed a potential bottleneck in the AP I call your planning. There's a much more efficient way to do it. Do you have 15 minutes for me to show you? It could save your team a few days of work." I stared at the message. Kenneth had never, in the 3 years I'd worked with him, proactively offered help or advice. He always did what was asked, no more, no less. I walked over to his desk. He spent the next 20 minutes enthusiastically drawing diagrams on a whiteboard, explaining the intricacies of his solution. He was animated, passionate, and articulate. He wasn't a poor communicator. He just needed to feel that his contribution was seen and valued before he felt safe enough to share it. That single compliment had unlocked a side of him I never knew existed, and it had saved my project from a potential delay. I went back to my desk, feeling dizzy. This experiment was supposed to be a humiliating exercise in biting my tongue. Instead, it was making my life easier. By the start of week 3, something had fundamentally shifted. The office atmosphere felt different. Or rather, my experience of it felt different. The men I worked with were no longer a collective of potential antagonists. They were just people. They were David, who had a flair for fashion. They were Kenneth, the shy genius. They were George, the diligent security guard. My default state of antagonism was melting away, being replaced by a hesitant curiosity. The constant low-level stress I carried in my shoulders started to dissipate. I wasn't spending all my energy scanning for slights and offenses anymore. It was exhausting being a warrior all the time. I hadn't realized how heavy my armor was until I started taking it off, piece by piece. My friend, the same one who usually celebrated my angry feminist rants, noticed the change. "You seem calmer," she said over lunch. I didn't tell her about the experiment. I was too embarrassed. I just shrugged and said I was trying a new mindfulness app. She then told me she had someone she wanted me to meet. "Don't say no immediately," she pleaded. "He's a good guy. An architect. Smart, kind, normal. Please just give him one chance." The old me would have given her a 10-minute lecture on the oppressive nature of heteronormative dating rituals and the emotional labor women are expected to perform. The new, experimental me heard Edward's voice in my head. "What do you have to lose?" I sighed. "Okay, fine. One drink." That weekend, I found myself sitting across from him in a quiet little wine bar. His name was Ethan. He was normal. Not movie star handsome, but he had kind eyes and a warm smile. He was a little nervous. I was terrified. I had my old scripts running through my head, a checklist of red flags to watch for. He chose the place. Okay, a bit generic. Probably a default date spot. Strike one. He complimented my dress. Okay, focusing on my appearance. Strike two. He started talking about his work. Okay, monopolizing the conversation. Strike three. My brain was screaming at me to unleash the lecture, to deconstruct his every move until he fled like all the others. But the rules of the experiment were clear. No criticism. Find something to praise. I took a deep breath, pushing back against years of ingrained behavior. He finished a story about a challenging building design he was working on. I looked around the bar. It was cozy, with soft lighting and comfortable chairs. It wasn't loud or crowded. "You know," I said, and his eyes snapped to mine, probably bracing for impact. "You picked a really great place. It's so comfortable and quiet here. It's nice not to have to shout on a first date." It was like I had flipped a switch. His entire posture changed. He relaxed. He broke into a wide, genuine grin. "Oh, good. I'm so glad you like it. I spent like an hour looking for a place that wasn't a total madhouse." That one simple compliment diffused all the tension in the air. The date completely transformed. The rest of the date with Ethan was unlike any I'd had in my adult life. Because I had disarmed myself, he disarmed himself in return. There was no debate, no ideological sparring. There was just conversation. I found myself asking questions. Not loaded questions designed to trap him, but genuine questions. What got him into architecture? What was the most challenging project he ever worked on? What did he like to do when he wasn't designing buildings? And I actually listened to the answers. I learned that he got into architecture because he loved the idea of creating spaces that made people feel safe and comfortable. He'd spent a year volunteering to build houses in a developing country. He told a hilarious, self-deprecating story about his first ever solo project, which involved a misplaced supporting wall and a very angry client. Instead of analyzing the story for problematic themes, I just laughed. It was a funny story. At one point, he asked me about my work. I started to describe a difficult project I was managing. The old me would have framed it around the incompetence of my male colleagues. Instead, I found myself talking about the challenge of the project itself, the logistics, the problem solving. I even mentioned how Kenneth, our developer, had come up with a brilliant solution that saved us. I heard myself say, "He's incredibly smart. We're lucky to have him." Ethan was completely engaged. He was nodding, asking follow-up questions. He wasn't threatened or bored. He was interested. When the evening was over, he walked me to my street. There was none of the usual end-of-date awkwardness. "I had a really, really great time tonight, Nancy," he said, and it sounded completely sincere. "Me too," I replied, shocked to realize I meant it. He smiled. "I'd love to do this again, if you're interested." And for the first time in what felt like a decade, I said yes, without a single reservation. The final week of the experiment felt like I was living in a different reality. The changes that had started as small ripples were now a full-blown tide. My relationship with my team at work had completely transformed. Projects were running more smoothly than ever before. Why? Because I wasn't fighting everyone anymore. When I needed something from Kenneth, I'd start by saying, "Hey, your work on the last phase was a lifesaver. I have another challenge for you." And he'd eagerly jump in. When David from marketing presented a new campaign, I'd find something to praise: the clever copy, the smart targeting, before I offered any constructive feedback. As a result, he'd listen to my feedback without getting defensive. I was getting more done, with less friction and with far less stress. I had spent years believing that being a strong woman in the workplace meant being a warrior, constantly fighting for my place at the table. I was starting to see that true strength wasn't about being the loudest or most critical person in the room. It was about being able to build people up, to foster collaboration, and to lead with encouragement instead of fear. My praise wasn't an act of submission. It was a strategic tool, a ridiculously effective one. Ethan called the next day. We went on a second date. We went to a museum. We went on a third date. We went for a long walk in the park. He was consistent, kind, and funny. He made plans. He texted to say good morning. He remembered little details from our conversations. He wasn't perfect. He had his quirks. He was a terrible singer and had a weird obsession with historical documentaries. But he was a good man. And because I wasn't constantly scanning him for flaws, I was actually able to see him for who he was. During one of our dates, I told him vaguely about how I used to be more intense, more cynical. He just nodded. "Well, I'm glad I met the version I met," he said. "She's pretty great." And I almost cried, right there in the middle of a crowded restaurant. No one had called me great in a long time. They called me strong, smart, fierce, but never just great. The 30 days came to an end on a Thursday. I remembered it because Edward had said, "Call me in a month." I didn't call him. I wasn't ready to talk about it yet. I needed to process it myself. That weekend, Ethan was out of town visiting his family. I was alone in my condo, but it was different now. The silence didn't feel like loneliness. It felt like peace. I poured myself a glass of wine, sat down at my laptop, and for some reason, I decided to look at my social media history. I scrolled back, past the pictures of my recent, happier-looking lunches with colleagues, past the memes that were more lighthearted. I scrolled back a month, 2 months, a year, and then I saw her, the old Nancy. My screen was filled with her voice, a long, furious thread about how a male actor in an interview had interrupted his female co-star, a shared article titled "Why All Men Are Complicit in the Patriarchy." A meme showing a man offering a woman a coat with the caption, "I don't need your chivalry. I need you to dismantle your privilege." A screenshot of a dating app conversation where I had systematically torn apart a guy's profile, correcting his grammar and calling him a cliché, all under the guise of educating him. I had been so proud of that post. So many of my friends had liked it, commented with fire emojis. "Slay, Queen!" I read it now, and my stomach churned. The man hadn't been aggressive. He just said, "Hey, you have a beautiful smile." And I had replied with a 3-paragraph essay on the unsolicited objectification of women's bodies. I kept scrolling, post after post of anger, resentment, and bitterness. A highlight reel of my own toxicity. I saw a picture of myself at a protest, holding a sign that said, "The future is female." I used to love that picture. Now, I looked at the woman holding the sign. I saw the anger in her eyes, the hard set of her jaw. I saw how lonely she was. I saw that she wasn't fighting for a better future. She was just fighting. Period. She was addicted to the conflict, to the feeling of being right, of being morally superior. It hit me with the force of a physical blow. My ideology wasn't a framework for understanding the world. It was a shield I used to protect myself from the world. If all men were potential threats, I never had to risk being vulnerable. If all interactions were a power struggle, I never had to risk being soft. If I could find a flaw in everyone, I never had to worry about them finding the flaws in me. It was the perfect defense mechanism, and it had cost me everything. It had cost me warmth, connection, joy, and years of my life. Men weren't running from me because they were intimidated by my strength. They were running from me because I was relentlessly, exhaustingly unpleasant. They were running because I met every attempt at connection with a wall of suspicion and every kind word with a lecture. They weren't the problem. The way I was treating them was the problem. I had demanded respect from the world while offering none in return. I had screamed about wanting empathy while demonstrating none myself. I thought I was a warrior for a cause. In reality, I was just a bully. The realization didn't just break me, it shattered me. It shattered the persona I had spent a decade building. It shattered the worldview that had made me feel safe and righteous in my isolation. I sat there in front of my glowing screen and I cried. I cried for the men I had belittled on dates. I cried for the colleagues I had treated with contempt. I cried for the years I had wasted being angry at an enemy that existed mostly in my own head. And I cried for that lonely, furious woman in the picture, because she had been in so much pain and had no idea how to fix it. After a long time, I stopped crying. I took a sip of my wine. And then I started deleting. I deleted the thread about the actor. I deleted the screenshot of the dating app conversation. I deleted the angry rants and the bitter memes. One by one, I erased the digital monument I had built to my own misery. It felt like cleaning out a wound. It was painful, but it was necessary. As I was about to close the laptop, a notification popped up on my screen. A message from Ethan. It was a picture of a sunset from his parents' backyard. Thinking of you. Can't wait to see you when I'm back. I looked at the picture and then back at my now empty social media timeline. It was a blank slate, a new beginning. I did eventually call Edward. I told him everything. He just listened. When I was done, all he said was, "It sounds like you didn't just learn how to talk to men, Nancy. It sounds like you learned how to talk to people." He was right. The experiment wasn't about men. Not really. It was about me. It forced me to stop seeing labels and start seeing human beings, each of them carrying their own hopes and insecurities. It taught me that everyone, no matter who they are, is starved for a little bit of recognition, a little bit of praise, A kind word costs nothing, but it can change everything. The result of my experiment didn't just get me a boyfriend. It gave me back my life. It gave me better relationships at work. It made me a calmer, more patient, and more empathetic person. It didn't just break me. It broke me open. I'm 32, and for the first time in my life, I feel not right, but happy.
Be me, 41, CEO and co-founder of tech startup in San Francisco. Company is called Streamline. We make project management software for remote teams. Series B funded, $18 million in the bank, 85 employees. I own 35% of the company, worth $12 million on paper. Been building this for 6 years, scraped through the early days. Finally hit product market fit. Revenue growing 40% year over year. $4.2 million ARR, on track to hit $8 million by year end. Live in a renovated loft in Soma, drive a Porsche Taycan. Wardrobe is all Everlane and Reformation, tech feminist aesthetic. LinkedIn bio says building the future of work, one woman at a time. Regular speaker at Women in Tech conferences, minor Twitter following. My co-founder is Michael, 43. He's the CTO. He built the original product, wrote the first 50K lines of code. Not a people person, classic engineer, lives in hoodies and Allbirds. Works 70-hour weeks, barely talks in meetings, just codes. We've had tension for years, the classic CEO-CTO dynamic. I want to move fast, pivot, try new things, chase growth. He wants to refactor, optimize, fix technical debt, build it right. I'm the face of the company, doing podcasts, courting investors. He's in the basement server room, debugging production issues at 2 a.m. Honestly, I've always felt like he doesn't respect me. In board meetings, he'll contradict me on technical decisions. He'll say things like, "That's not how it works," or "That's impossible." Makes me look stupid in front of investors, undermines my authority. I tell him this in our one-on-ones, he just shrugs. I'm telling you the technical reality, not trying to undermine you, but it feels like undermining. It feels like he thinks he knows better, which technically he does know better about code, but I'm the CEO. Vision beats technical knowledge. That's what leadership is. Recently, things have gotten worse, much worse. We hired a new engineering manager, woman named Priya, 29, Stanford grad. She's smart, ambitious, great at communication, everything Michael isn't. I see her as future leadership material, maybe VP of engineering someday. But Michael keeps rejecting her proposals, shutting down her ideas. She comes to me frustrated, almost in tears sometimes. He won't even listen to my suggestions, just says it's not a priority. He talks over me in engineering meetings, dismisses my concerns. This is classic. This is textbook toxic male behavior in tech. Michael is gatekeeping, protecting his territory, keeping women down. I start documenting these incidents, building a case. Meanwhile, company culture is shifting. I'm making it happen. Hired a VP of People and Culture, woman named Zara, 38, very progressive. She implements new policies, inclusive language guidelines, bias training, mandatory sessions on allyship, bystander intervention, calling out microaggressions. The engineers resist. Of course they do. They always resist change. Michael especially. He sent me an email after the first training. This was a waste of 4 hours. We have a product to build. The engineers are already stretched thin. They need to code, not attend seminars. I forwarded to Zura. See what I'm dealing with. This is the problem. Board meeting in March. I'm presenting our Q1 numbers. Revenue is slightly behind plan. Churn is up a bit. Not terrible, but not great. Michael presents the engineering roadmap. It's conservative. We need to spend Q2 on infrastructure, paying down technical debt. The code base is fragile. We're having too many production incidents. One of the board members, guy named Jeff, asks the obvious question. Can't you do infrastructure and new features at the same time? Michael shakes his head. Not with current headcount and sprint capacity. We're at 80% utilization. We need to either slow down features or hire more. I jump in. We can do both. Michael is being too conservative. We have the funding, We have the runway. We need to move faster. Michael looks at me, tired. We can't code faster by hiring more people. That's not how software development works. Adding people slows things down short term. Jeff looks confused. I look stupid. I'm furious. After the meeting, I pull Michael aside. You made me look like an idiot in there. I told you the technical reality. Same as always. Your technical reality undermines my leadership. My technical reality is just reality. You're the one making promises we can't keep. That's it. That's the moment I decide he has to go. Not immediately. Can't fire a co-founder CTO without a plan. But I start laying groundwork, talking to board members one-on-one. Michael is holding us back with his conservative approach. He's not a culture fit anymore. He resists our diversity initiatives. I think we need more progressive technical leadership. Some board members are skeptical. He built the product. He knows it better than anyone. Others are sympathetic, especially the newer ones who don't know him well. I frame it as growth versus stagnation, future versus past, inclusive versus toxic. Meanwhile, I'm also building up Priya, giving her visibility. Invite her to board meetings to present, put her on customer calls. She's great at it. Articulate, confident, impressive. Start floating the idea, what if Priya took on more technical leadership? Board is intrigued. She's clearly talented, good communicator. But everyone knows she's been here 8 months. Michael built this company. April, another incident. This one is perfect for my narrative. Priya proposes a major architectural change, microservices migration. Would require 6 months of work, touching every part of the code base. She presented an engineering all hands. It's compelling, modern, buzzword compliant. Michael listens, asks questions, then says, no, not now. We don't have the stability to do this migration safely. Microservices add complexity we're not ready to manage. Let's table this for a year. Focus on stability first. Priya is devastated. Feels like he's blocking her for political reasons. She's not wrong to feel that way. He is blocking her, but for technical reasons. She comes to my office. He's never going to let me lead anything meaningful. I'm thinking about leaving. I can't grow here with him as CTO. This is my opening. What if he wasn't CTO anymore? She looks shocked. What do you mean? I mean, what if you were CTO? What if you led engineering? She's quiet, processing. He's a co-founder. You can't just fire him. Let me worry about that. Would you want the role? I mean, yes, of course, but I don't have his experience. You have the right leadership approach. That's more important than experience. Spend the next 2 weeks preparing, building the case. Document every time Michael contradicted me in meetings. Every time he pushed back on culture initiatives. Every time he said no to Priya or other women engineers. Frame it as pattern of behavior. Toxic masculinity, hostile work environment. Get Zura, the VP of People, to write up a formal assessment. Michael exhibits concerning patterns of gatekeeping and resistance to feedback. Multiple female engineers report feeling dismissed or undermined. His leadership style is incongruent with our values around inclusion. It's HR speak for he's a problem. It's beautiful. Schedule board meeting for early May, special session. Discussion of leadership and technical direction. Michael doesn't know what's coming. He thinks it's about hiring plans. I present my case, 25 slides, professionally made, devastating. Concerning patterns of behavior from technical leadership. Cultural misalignment with company values. Risk to retention of diverse talent, specifically Priya. Show the data, the incidents, the complaints from Priya. Zara backs me up. From an HR perspective, this is untenable. We risk losing our best female engineering talent. Michael is sitting there, stone-faced, finally realizes what's happening. Board member Jeff speaks up. These are concerning allegations. But Michael built this product. He's been here since day one. Can we address these issues without replacing him? I play my trump card. He's threatening our Series C. Investors want to see progressive leadership, diverse executive team. Every pitch I take, they ask about our leadership demographics. Having an all-male technical leadership team is a liability. Another board member, woman named Sarah, nods along. That's true. Diversity is a major factor in funding now. Michael finally speaks. Voice is quiet, controlled. Let me see if I understand this correctly. You're firing me because I'm a man. And because I've made technical decisions you disagree with. I'm ready for this. That's a reductive and defensive characterization. This is about leadership approach, cultural alignment, and growth mindset. He looks at me, something breaking in his expression. I've worked 70-hour weeks for 6 years building this company. I've kept the product running. I've built the team. I've fixed every crisis. And you're firing me because I told you no a few times. Jeff speaks up. How would the transition work? Who would take over? Priya would step up to CTO. She's ready for the role. Michael laughs, bitter. Priya's been here 8 months. She's never built anything from scratch, never scaled a system. She's a great engineer, but she's not ready to be CTO. Sarah jumps in. That sounds like gatekeeping, Michael. Maybe that's exactly the kind of thinking we need to move past. The vote happens. It's 3-2 to remove Michael as CTO. Me, Sarah, and one other board member who wants to back the CEO. Jeff and one other vote against, but they're outvoted. Michael is offered a strategic advisor role, which is a fancy way of firing him. He declines. I'm not going to watch you destroy what I built. Signs the separation agreement, gets his equity vested, walks out. I feel a mix of relief and guilt, push the guilt down. This was necessary. This was evolution. This is progress. Announce it company-wide the next day, carefully worded email. Michael is stepping down as CTO to pursue other opportunities. We're excited to announce Priya as our new CTO. This reflects our commitment to diverse and inclusive leadership. Engineering team is shocked. Silent Slack channels. Nobody says anything. Priya accepts the role, starts immediately. She's nervous but excited. I give her the pep talk. You're ready for this. I believe in you. Ignore the doubters. Prove them wrong with results. Week 1 with Priya as CTO, honeymoon phase. She's in all the meetings, making decisions, setting direction. Approves the microservices migration she proposed. Engineering team starts planning. Also approves 3 other major initiatives she's been pushing. I'm thrilled. This is the velocity I wanted. This is moving fast. Week 2, first production incident. Major bug in the payment processing. Customers can't upgrade their accounts. Revenue is literally stopped. Sales team is panicking. Priya is in the war room with engineering, trying to figure it out. Takes 6 hours to fix. Turns out it's related to some code Michael wrote. One of the senior engineers, guy named Tom, figures it out. This is a race condition in the billing microservice. Michael put a lock here to prevent this exact issue. Someone removed it during a ref factor last week. Priya looks defensive. We were cleaning up technical debt. That lock was causing performance issues. Tom looks tired. It was causing performance issues because it was preventing a race condition. The performance issues were the symptom, not the problem. Incident gets resolved. I send out a company-wide email. Thanks to the team for quick resolution. These things happen. But internally I'm worried. 6 hours of downtime is bad. Week 3, another incident, database migration goes wrong. Takes down the entire product for 4 hours. Customers are furious. We lose 2 major accounts that were already on the fence about churn. $60,000 in ARR gone, just like that because of an outage. Engineering team is stressed, working around the clock. Tom comes to me, asks to talk privately. I'm worried about the technical direction. We're moving too fast, making too many changes at once. The microservices migration should wait until we're stable. I'm defensive immediately. Priya is the CTO. She makes those calls. I know, but she's new. She doesn't know the code base like Michael did. Are you saying she's not qualified because she's a woman? Tom looks shocked. What? No, I'm saying she's new. That's just a fact. It sounds like you're undermining her because of bias. I'm literally trying to help, trying to prevent more outages. In a meeting, support your CTO or find somewhere else to work. He leaves looking defeated. I feel powerful and righteous. Month 2. Things are deteriorating fast. We have 8 production incidents in 4 weeks, used to average 1 per month. Churn is spiking. Customers are complaining about reliability. Engineering team is working nights and weekends. Morale is tanking. 3 senior engineers quit. All men, all Michael's original hires. They don't even give real reasons, just pursuing other opportunities. I'm starting to panic, but can't show it. Have to support Priya. She's overwhelmed and over her head, working 80-hour weeks. But she won't admit it, won't ask for help, just pushes harder. Approves more initiatives, more changes, trying to prove herself. The code base is becoming unstable. Systems are breaking. Month 3, the catastrophic failure. Friday afternoon, 2 p.m., entire platform goes down. Not a partial outage, complete failure, everything offline. Database corruption, cascading failures across microservices. Nobody knows how to fix it. Priya is in panic mode. Senior engineers are trying everything. Nothing works. Hours pass, customers are screaming. Sales team is losing deals. Twitter is lighting up with complaints. Tech press is covering it. Streamline suffers major outage. Customers unable to access platform. Saturday morning, still down. This is a disaster. Priya finally admits, I don't know how to fix this. The architecture is more complex than I understood. Tom, one of the senior engineers who hasn't quit yet, speaks up. We need Michael. He's the only one who knows this system deeply enough. I'm resistant. Absolutely not. We can figure this out. We've been trying for 16 hours. We need him. Another engineer agrees. He built this. He'll know what's wrong. Priya is crying now, exhausted and humiliated. Call him. I call Michael. Goes to voicemail. Call again. Nothing. Text him. Emergency. Platform is down. Need your help. An hour later, he responds, not my problem anymore. I text back. Please, customers are suffering. Company is at risk. He responds, you fired me and said Priya was ready. Sounds like you made your choice. I'm desperate now. We'll pay you consulting rate, whatever you want. Not interested, good luck. He blocks my number. I'm done, I'm fucked. Sunday morning, 48 hours of downtime. This is company ending. Board is having emergency meeting. Investors are panicking. Major customers are demanding refunds, threatening to sue. Finally get the platform back online Sunday night. 72 hours of downtime total, absolute disaster. We lost 30% of our customer base in one weekend. $1.2 million in ARR gone, plus refunds, plus legal costs. Engineering team is destroyed. For more quit the next week. Priya resigns. I'm not cut out for this. I'm sorry. She's right. She wasn't ready. I set her up to fail. But can't say that out loud. Just accept her resignation. Emergency board meeting Monday. It's a massacre. How did this happen? How did we get here? Jeff is furious. We fired our CTO who knew the system. Replaced him with someone with 8 months experience. And now we've lost 1/3 of our revenue in one weekend. Sarah, who voted with me, looks sick. We need to bring Michael back. Offer him whatever he wants. I call him again from a different number. He picks up. Michael, it's me. We need to talk. He's quiet then. No, we don't. The board wants to bring you back, CTO again. I don't want to come back. We'll increase your equity, give you full control, anything. He laughs cold. You fired me for being a toxic male. Now you want me back because your diversity hire couldn't do the job. I went at the phrasing, but he's not wrong. It was a mistake. I made a mistake. The company needs you. The company needed me 3 months ago. You chose politics over competence. Now you're dealing with the consequences. He hangs up, doesn't answer again. Board votes to remove me as CEO that week. Installing an interim CEO, bringing an experienced turnaround person. I'm offered founder in residence role, basically fired but gently. My equity is still there, but the company is dying. Valuation has collapsed. Series C is canceled. Down to 40 employees, everyone good has left. 3 months later, company runs out of money. Can't raise more funding. Revenue too damaged. Reputation destroyed. Acquired for parts by competitor. $3 million acquisition. Barely covers the debts and the investor preferences. My 35% stake worth basically nothing, maybe $100,000 after everything. From $12 million on paper to $100,000 in reality. I'm 41, unemployed, startup failed, reputation in tatters. Tech press wrote about it. Streamline collapses after leadership shakeup. CEO fired CTO co-founder. Replaced with inexperienced exec. Company failed within months. I'm a case study now, a cautionary tale in business school. Try to get another CEO role, investors won't touch me. You fired your technical co-founder for political reasons and destroyed the company. Try to get funded for a new startup, nobody will invest. You chose ideology over competence. That's not a bet we take. 6 months after the collapse, see Michael on TechCrunch. He's starting a new company, already raised Series A from top VCs. Serial entrepreneur and technical leader launches new dev tools startup. Backed by $8 million from the same investors who wouldn't fund me. 9 months later, see Priya on LinkedIn. She's back to senior engineer role at a big tech company. Her title says staff engineer, not CTO. She's founder level. Good for her, honestly. She never should have been put in that position. I set her up to fail. She wasn't ready. Everyone knew it except me. 1 year after everything collapsed, living in a smaller apartment. Sold a Porsche, couldn't afford it anymore. Working as a consultant for early-stage startups, $150 per hour when I can get work. Making maybe $60,000 a year, used to make $200,000 plus equity. Go to a women in tech conference, used to speak at these. Now I'm just attending, nobody recognizes me, or they pretend not to. Run into another founder, woman I used to know from the circuit. Hey, I heard about Streamline, that's rough. Yeah, it didn't work out. Can I ask what happened, like really happened? I'm tired of lying, tired of the narrative I built. I fired my CTO because I thought he was holding us back. Because he disagreed with me and I took it personally. Because I wanted to promote a woman and it felt progressive and right. She's listening, not judging, just listening. And she wasn't ready, and I knew she wasn't ready. But I convinced myself that belief mattered more than experience. That diversity mattered more than competence. My voice breaks, and I destroyed a $40 million company because I couldn't separate politics from business, because I fired the person who built everything and replaced him with someone unqualified because it felt like the right thing to do. She nods slowly. That's really honest. It's the truth. I was an idiot. I was ideological. I was wrong. And 40 employees lost their jobs because of my ego. We talked for a while longer. She's kind, doesn't pile on. But I can see it in her eyes, the same calculation everyone makes. Don't want to be associated with this person, career poison. Walk home alone. Think about the choices I made. Think about Michael working 70-hour weeks while I did podcasts. Michael debugging production issues at 2 a.m. while I tweeted about feminism. Michael telling me the technical reality while I called him toxic. He was right about everything, every technical decision, every warning. But I couldn't hear it because I was so sure I was right. So sure that he was the problem, that his maleness was the problem. So sure that Priya could do the job just because I wanted her to. And it cost me everything, cost everyone everything. The company is dead, the employees scattered, the product shut down. All those customers who relied on us, just told to migrate elsewhere. All that potential, all that value, destroyed in 3 months. Because I fired the person who built it and replaced him with someone who couldn't maintain it. Not because of gender, not really, Priya could have been great someday. But because I prioritized identity over capability. Because I wanted the optics more than I wanted the results. Because I thought leadership was about vision and values. When really it was about making sure the product fucking works. 2 years later, working full-time at a consulting firm. Not my own firm, someone else's, I'm an employee again. Senior advisor, which is code for founder who failed. Making $90,000 health insurance for 1K match, normal job. Nothing wrong with it. Honest work pays the bills. But I used to be CEO of a venture-backed startup. Used to speak at conferences, used to be somebody. Now I'm the woman who fired her CTO and crashed the company. That's my legacy. That's what I'm known for. See Michael's new company announced Series B. $25 million. He's building a team, hiring aggressively. Check the job postings, engineering roles, all levels. Requirements: strong technical skills, ability to work in fast-paced environment. No mention of diversity quotas, no mention of gender. Just we hire the best people, which is what he always believed. And apparently investors agree, $25 million agrees. While I'm making $90,000 and working for someone else. Because I chose politics over competence. Because I thought being progressive mattered more than being right. Because I fired the person who made everything work. And learned the hardest lesson in business. That you can have all the right values in politics. But if the product doesn't work, none of it matters. If the platform is down for 72 hours, customers don't care about your diversity metrics. If the company fails, employees lose their jobs regardless of your intentions. Reality doesn't care about your ideology. Physics doesn't care about your politics. And code doesn't run on good intentions. It runs on competence, on experience, on knowledge. All the things Michael had and Priya didn't. All the things I threw away because I was sure I was right. Now I'm here, 43, working for someone else. Living in a one-bedroom, taking the bus to work. No more Porsche, no more loft, no more equity worth millions. Just a cautionary tale about what happens when you let ideology override reality. When you fire people for disagreeing with you. When you promote people because of what they represent, instead of what they can actually do. That's my story. That's my lesson. Learn too late, cost too much, but learn nonetheless. In the ruins of the company I destroyed, by firing the one person who could have saved it, because he was a man and I wanted a woman, because he said no and I wanted yes, because he was right and I couldn't accept it. That's what killed the company. That's what ended my career.